Fantasy football is as popular as ever, and I'm going to help you win your NFL Fantasy League this year. In this video, I'm going to provide you with two tools, and using them together will give you the best possible advantage in your NFL Fantasy Draft. You don't even need to know much about each player's talent level or what each player is projected to do. I have you covered completely. Now, winning our fantasy football leagues will take some luck and attention throughout the year, but the first step of what we can control is the draft. The first step to winning our leagues starts with the draft. Most people will be drafting this week or sometime between September 1st and September 8th. I'm going to provide you with two sheets you can use in your draft, and I'm also going to go over some simple draft strategies, some draft tips, and also some sleeper picks that I'm personally targeting. Now, each fantasy league is different, from the rules and point structure in each league to the format and, of course, the level of competition in each league. One of the best draft tips is one that can be used in any league, in any format, and it's simple. It's to use the draft mistakes of others in your league to your advantage. But in order to know when someone in your league makes a draft mistake, you'll need to know where each player should be drafted, and I got you covered there. On screen is the average draft position sheet. Yahoo and ESPN have already had hundreds of thousands of drafts, probably even millions actually. This sheet tells us where each player was drafted on average in all those drafts that have already happened. This complete average draft position sheet, along with everything else you'll see here in this video, will be posted in the Betting Network Discord community in the Fantasy Draft Kit channel. But having this average draft position sheet isn't enough on its own. We need to know what players to draft in each round, no matter what the pick is we have. And the best way to do this is by using tiers. Now, before getting into the draft tiers, I need a favor from you guys. If you could help me out and give this video a thumbs up, or if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, I'd really appreciate if you consider doing that. We don't charge for anything we do here. There's no subscription package or VIP service. It's just free. So we hope to grow this channel with y'all's help and appreciate everyone who watches these videos. Now, on to the draft tiers. What are draft tiers? Draft tiers are simply groupings of players by position that have similar point production projections. I personally prefer tiers when drafting because going by just player rankings doesn't really tell how big a gap is between players. You know, putting the players in tiers or groups of players who project similar point return value or talent is much more helpful. I want to know how big the gap is between the 9th ranked running back and the number 10th ranked running back. You know, it's only one spot on the rankings, but using tiers will give me an idea of the actual difference between the two players. Now, for example, this year, 2020 season, there are three clear top three tight ends: Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, and George Kittle. All of these players project pretty similar, but after those three are off the draft board, the drop-off from those three to the next best available tight ends is significant. So we can use the average draft position sheet to see the actual gap in average draft position. But we also have the tiers to see which players are left in that next range. So if we look on the screen here to the right, the average draft position chart, we see Kelce is going in the first round, and Waller and Kittle are going in the late second round range. You don't want to be taking the next best available tight end right after those top three tight ends are gone because the drop-off in production is so wide. If we look at the tier 3 tight ends on the left there, Hawkinson, Andrews, and Pitts, those guys all project pretty similar, hence why they're in the same tier, but they aren't being drafted to the late 4th or early round 5. So again, the tiers combined with the average draft position will let you know when and where players should be drafted. I created tiers for all positions that you can use along with the average draft position sheet. They will both be posted in the Betting Network Discord community in the Fantasy Draft Kit channel. Also, for anyone that's interested in getting free daily sports betting picks, text directly to your phone. We have a free text service you can sign up for. Just simply text the word picks to the number on the screen, or you can click the link in the description below and opt in. The text service is just a way for me to send out my strongest sports bets in a timely fashion. I won't always have time to make a video for all my bets, so the text service allows me to just send out plays I'm betting quickly. And again, it's 100% free, no card info or any of that nonsense. Just the bets I'm personally making that I think have value. Now, back to the topic at hand, the tiers. All tiers aren't created equal. These are my tiers based on my projection. And I'm not saying my projections are perfect. You might disagree with some, and that's fine. You're probably wrong, and I'm probably right, but it's no big deal. The important thing is to understand the value of each position. You got quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end positions all hold different values. For example, drafting a top tier quarterback because they are in the last of their position left in the group tier. If you're on the clock in round 2, it's not recommended to take a quarterback just because, there's only one quarterback left in a tier. The second tier quarterbacks will last longer than the second tier running backs and wide receivers. So don't just blindly select from expiring tiers. Instead, you want to see the bigger picture of the roster construction by placing premiums on top running backs and wide receivers over positions like quarterbacks. Now, I'm not big on having a specific draft strategy that's set in stone because you want to adapt it on the fly based on the draft and how it's going. But it's probably good to have an idea of the different types of draft strategies there are. Depending on the league format, there's many different draft strategies. I'll go over a couple basic ones that are popular. Like I said, there's a ton of draft strategies, and there's no correct one. It's whatever you feel gives you the best chance at drafting the best possible lineup. I'm going to cover a few that I personally use depending on the league and format. The first one is called starters, or starters first, I should say. And you basically just draft your starters in the order: 4 flex players right off the bat, then a QB, then a tight end, and a flex again. The flex is, of course, running back or wide receiver eligible positions. And the idea is just to draft the 4 best available in those positions, running backs or wideouts. Obviously, keep in mind the spots you need to fill with your roster. It's 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers, and you don't want to take 4 wide receivers with your 4 flex players first, but you should include both running backs and wide receivers in whatever is best available. Now, next one is probably the most popular one, and it's just simply running back in the first 2 rounds. Then round 3, best available. Securing 2 running backs in the first 2 rounds is standard draft strategy. It makes the most sense because the running back position isn't the deepest, and it's the position that gives you the most points. Leagues are typically won because of a stud running back. Next strategy is simple: BPA, or best player available, for the first 6 or 7 rounds. Then you fill in your roster needs. It's simply just drafting the best player available. Round 1 or 2 tight end. This only means the top 3 tight ends, Kelsey and Kittle. And you can add in Waller, I guess. Yeah, usually it's the top 2 tight ends, but you can basically add in Waller now, I guess. He's kind of up in that range. But if those 3 guys are gone by the late 2nd or 3rd round, don't go and take Pitts or Hawkinson or Andrews. Let the board play out and don't reach for the next group of tight ends. Let others do that. The last one that's worth covering is wide receiver late. The wideout position is so deep, so waiting on drafting a wide receiver allows you to kind of focus on other positions. Of course, if Devontae Adams is there in the 2nd round, you want to take him, or guys like Tyreek Hill or Stephon Diggs. If they're there late 2nd round or early 3rd, you want to take them. But you want to use both the draft tiers and average draft position cheat sheet to help you make these decisions. Now, for my own personal draft strategy, it's pretty simple. It's not too in-depth. My motto is just let the draft come to you. I obviously want a top 6 running back in round 1. You always want to look for running backs before wide receivers. There's just so much more depth at wide receiver that allows you to wait compared to the running back depth. If you get caught focusing on wide receivers too early, before you know it, you'll be left with the dead zone running backs, and those will be the only options to choose from. I do want to try and get either Waller or Kittle in round 2 this year, but if they're gone, that's totally fine. I never seem to get a top tight end. This year, depending on my pick position, I'm going to try to get one of the top 3 tight ends because, like we talked about already, the drop-off from the top 3 guys is significant. I'll look running back with my 3rd pick and then fill in around them. I want a good QB in round 5, I believe. But I don't mind waiting until round 6 or 7. I'll never take a QB before round 5, and I'm okay with even waiting till as late as round 7 or 8. With QBs, there's a few that put up big points weekly, and then there's like 10 guys that basically average the same. Now, before we wrap this all up, I want to go over a few draft tips to keep in mind when drafting. I've made this mistake before. You don't want to get attached to any certain players. You can target guys, of course, but don't jump the gun and draft that player a round or two early just because you like him and have him circled. Let the draft board play out or let the players come to you. Now, bye weeks are crucial. Make sure you don't draft a bunch of players with the same bye week. Don't draft based on buys, though. If there's a guy you love or a guy that fell to you that has value, but you have some players already that has the same bye week, I'd recommend taking him and then just figuring it out later. But just be conscious of the bye weeks. You don't want a roster full of guys with the same bye week. Don't draft a defense. Instead, use that pick for like a potential high upside guy or like a backup QB like Fields or Trey Lance. I personally play the waiver wire each week for defenses based on matchup. There's not a huge difference in overall average point production from the top 10 defenses to the next 10. So using a draft spot on a defense doesn't really make a ton of sense with value-based drafting. Now, the draft is won after round 5. I truly believe that. The first 4 rounds are basically an autopilot. You're not going to have many tough strategic decisions to make. That comes after round 5, so be prepared. Lastly, don't lock into a guy or try to script out your picks. Be ready to adapt on the fly. If you lock into a player, you're more likely to reach for that player early. Have a strategy, but be ready to audible based on the flow of the draft. Now, before I get out of here, let's take a look at some of the tiers real quick. I won't spend a ton of time on here because you can check out all these tiers in full in the Discord community. These will all be posted in the Discord community for you guys to save and copy and have with you on your draft. But starting with the QB tiers, QB player projections on average tend to be more accurate than the running backs. Running backs have that potential to be real difference makers for a team. Now, of course, I got Mahomes QB1, but the questionable player in tier 1 is definitely Dak here, and for obvious reasons. But I think he finishes the year among the league's top QBs. I struggled with leaving Rodgers out of tier 1 here, but he's another year older, and I just believe he's in tier 2. Doesn't mean I have him projected way behind guys like Dak and Russ. But let's look at running back tiers here. Tier 1 is basically automated, let's be honest. I thought about just putting McCaffrey in tier 1 by himself, but I'm really high on Cook, so he joins him there in tier 1. Running back is the most important tier in my opinion because the upside players fall off so quickly. Very few teams have a workhorse type running back or even like 3 down backs. Last season, only 27 running backs averaged more than 15 touches per game, with only 22 actually getting 15 plus touches per outing. Fantasy leagues are often won by breakout years from running back spots. So let's look at wide receivers now, which is the deepest tier. And it seems to get deeper each year. More and more teams are starting to use what's called the 11 personnel on offense. 11 personnel is 1 running back, 1 tight end, and 3 wide receivers. And the reason more teams are going with 11 personnel formation is because more teams are passing more. And because the wideout position is so deep, I basically try to just grab 1 wide receiver in the top 15 or 20, and then I'll wait till like around round 5 to look for some high upside guys, or maybe even some would call sleepers. And speaking of which, I have some sleepers posted in the Betting Network Discord community, which is where all the sheets from this video are posted. You can join for free. Just click the link in the description below. I think I'm going to stop here. I'm running out of steam tonight. Hopefully this video will help you guys in your draft. And hopefully you guys draft a solid team and get an advantage on the league right out the gate. Thank you guys for watching. For anyone that's still watching to the end, I really appreciate it. To show my appreciation, here's a little peek at my NFL future picks I made. If you're a member of the Discord community, you might have already seen these. I originally posted them back in June. Let me know in the comments section what you think. If you agree with any of these, disagree strongly, if you're going to be tailing any of them, let me know. But yeah, that's going to do it for me for now. Until next time, good luck in your fantasy draft and with all your bets. I'll see you next time.